What up, ladies and gents? This is George Bean here, and today I am doing a special review on one certain 1980 slasher film that has left a sort of schism between the film critics and the mainstream moviegoers. Yes, I am talking about the 1984 slasher film, Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter. Even though we and every moviegoer around the world know that this movie isn't anywhere near being the final chapter. How far am I saying? After this movie, they made 8 more sequels after this. So, final chapter my ass. But you know, Hollywood, you can't compete against their system. You'd think that Paramount, and with all these subsequent and constant re-releases of these DVDs, you'd think that Paramount, or whoever owns these movies, would retitle it to simply Friday the 13th Part 4. But they decided not to make that change because I guess they know just how much we, the moviegoers, love these series, even for its faults. As the 4th installment in the Friday the 13th franchise, the film opens immediately on the same day Part 3 had ended, where we see the police and paramedics clean up the aftermath of notorious slasher mass murderer Jason Voorhees' killing spree at Higgins Haven from the last film. This movie is set remember how in Part 3 it ended on the morning of the next day, which is Sunday the 15th, and well, this movie opens on the night of the same day, which is Sunday the 15th. The next day also takes place on Sunday the 16th, and finally the last day on this movie takes place on 14, 15, 16, 17, Tuesday the 17th. So yeah, short amount of time, and the police and paramedics take what's like the seemingly dead Jason to the morgue after having supposedly died from an axe to his head. But of course, Jason immediately jumps back to life and journeys his way back to Crystal Lake. There he finds yet another group of partying teens vacationing at a remote house, while there is also a neighboring backwoods family of 3 living next door, not realizing that Jason has come to continue his murderous rampage. This film was directed by Joseph Zito, who in 1981 made the underrated slasher film The Prowler, which ended up giving him the job to helm this film. The big thing is this film has some similarities to the Prowler, such as the dark atmosphere and brutal gore effects. Zito went on to direct action films, two action films starring the Chuck Norris, both titled Missing in Action and Invasion USA. He hasn't gone much later on in his career, and yeah. But he's still doing interviews for this movie. The gore effects were done brilliantly by visual effects maestro Tom Savini, who not only did the original Friday the 13th film, the first one, but also Zito's Prowler. Savini returned to the F-13 franchise so that he can be there to kill off Jason, the monster he had created in the first film. Unfortunately, we all know how that turned out after this movie. The music score was, like its 3 previous films, done by Harry Manfredini, who has done the score for all of the Friday the 13th films, with the exception of 2003's Freddy vs. Jason and the 2009 Friday the 13th remake, which was produced by Michael Bay. Bum bum bum. Well, anyway, what makes this movie great is that unlike most slasher films where the characters who ends up or the cannon fodder for the killer, is a bit different from the typical ones we see. These characters we meet are actually very likable. It's like they came out of a John Hughes high school comedy and ended up in a horror movie, which is cool. And for the cast, Kimberly Beck plays Trish Jarvis, the older sister of the neighboring family, and Kimberly Beck does a brilliant job in her performance as Trish, especially at the final act when she fights off Jason, which is cool. And Eric Anderson play Trish's younger brother, Tommy Jarvis, is played by the one and only Corey Feldman, who went on to do later went on to do the classic The Goonies, Gremlins, and The Burbs and The Lost Boys. So this is where you see how he got his big start in this movie. And two of the greatest characters in this film are Ted and Doug, played by Lawrence Monoson and Crispin Glover. What's cool, Crispin Glover, he did this movie a year before he played George McFly in Back to the Future. Ain't that really cool? And his character Jimmy is really, honestly, the nicest character you'll ever see in a horror movie. The way he plays his character is really brilliant, especially when he's referred to as a dead fuck. He and his friend Ted are such great friends. It's like you want to hang out with them in the bar, and they're both really great. I love how Ted plays with his non-existent computer and tells Jimmy, it says that you're a dead fuck. What? A dead fuck? And talking about how Jimmy had a breakup with his other girlfriend before this movie, and it's so funny. He goes from a bit nerdy and shy to mopey. And Crispin Glover does a great job in this movie. He also played the character Willard in the 2003 remake of the same name. In the 2003 film, which was a remake of the 1970s film of the same name. Go check him out in that other movie. He's really cool in that. But there is one scene that is quite possibly the best scene out of the whole movie, which is where Crispin Glover's Jimmy does a dance song to Love Is a Lie by Lion, and it's easily the best dance scene I had ever seen in a horror movie. And I'm gonna try it myself, but his dance move may be bad, but let me see if I can try to make mine worse. That was a great song. Easily the best scene out of the whole movie. Definitely worth watching. Seeing Crispin Glover's weird jitter dance. Mine seemed shitty, but hey, I won that round, and at least he doesn't have to be declared the worst dance ever. I just won that title. And I guess now we can see how Marty McFly got his crazy dancing skills. from his father, George. Hahaha. Just kidding. Cute joke. Also, as for the other cast members, Eric Anderson plays Rob Dyer, a drifter who is out to seek revenge against Jason, who for the death of his sister Sandra, who was killed by Jason in Part 2. He does a decent job. He's really cool in this movie. A character you would like. And there are also other ones. Some I barely know. There's one particular one. One of the teens is Samantha, played by Judy Aronson, and what happens is that she was in that 1985 John Hughes science fiction comedy Weird Science, and but you gotta check her out in that movie too. She was awesome in that one, and she was also in Hannibal, the 2001 film Hannibal, directed by Ridley Scott, and also the 2005 film Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, starring Robert Downey Jr. And I'm sure those are small. I'm sure Hannibal and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang were small roles, but should be on the lookout for them. And other characters like Paul, Doug. Never heard of any of them, but the other teens are twin sisters, Tina and Terry, played by Camilla and Carrie Moore. These are twin siblings in the movie, which is cool, which is what you don't see a lot in typical slasher movies. But they also do a good job. The rest of the cast does a good job, in my honest opinion. But there is another actor who does a good job, and character. Our series antagonist, Jason Voorhees, played by Ted White. What's cool is that Ted White was a stuntman. He spent his career as a stuntman. He's best known to have doubled for John Wayne, Clark Gable, Lee Marvin, etc., etc. And why he was chosen, originally Ted White was reluctant to accept the role as a psychotic killer in a slasher movie, but he accepted only because he needed the money, like Betsy Palmer, who played Mrs. Voorhees in the original Friday the 13th. And he was uneasy about. In fact, Ted White asked not to be credited on screen for his part for two reasons. He was uneasy about playing one of the most infamous murderers in screen history, especially after having doubled for other famous actors, and it's also because of some arguments he had with director Joe Zito for being insensitive to his cast, and Ted, as a stuntman, was concerned about the health and safety of his fellow cast members, even though he spent most of his time on and off camera in character, so distancing himself from the fellow cast members to keep the fright factor going. But as a stuntman, he was concerned about his fellow cast's health and safety. Like, for example, when Judy Aronson was completely nude on the raft in the river was so cold that she was beginning to suffer from hypothermia, and she actually started crying from the pain brought onto her by the cold. This infuriated White to the point that he threatened to quit if they didn't let her out of the lake. And Zito complied since he didn't have the time or resources to find another stuntman that is similar to White's size. And another thing was that as a concerned stuntman, one of the other actors, Clyde Hayes, who plays Paul, during his death scene in the shower, Clyde Hayes had a head injury, I think, and recently, and Ted White, knowing about this, and out of concern, put a head pad on the walls so that when his head hits, it'll comfort the impact. Ain't that nice, having your health and safety concerned by Jason Voorhees? That would be cool. And to be honest, there's also another actor, Bruce Maller, who plays Axel, the coroner in the morgue. He's one of your typical horror cannon fodder characters. He's the horny guy who is willing to hit on any girl that he comes in contact with. And is it me or does he look like Spoonie? Just saying. And Axel, his death scene was really awesome. When he's watching some workout program for women, Jason pops up behind him and slashes his throat with a hacksaw and twists it, snapping it, killing him, which is really awesome. And yeah, there's even more and such. Like, for example, hold on. But some ways, again, the film is overly decent, and what happened is, the reason why it was subtitled The Final Chapter is that they intended this to be the final chapter of the film. Like, end the series, wipe their hands clean of it, and move on. And that's what made this film noticeable, is its ending where spoilers, Jason ends up getting killed off. The machete to head, slicing down, taking out part of his skull, and then getting hacked to bits by his own machete, killing him instantly. And then our young Tommy Jarvis, who's played by Corey Feldman, then does a sudden stare at us as in the last shot, thus signifying an open door for a sequel, and which is to say that Tommy was going to be the new killer in the sequel. Of course, horror movies won't. Horror franchise never die, and that's what made it great. And we all know how that Tommy as the new killer angle went, based on The New Beginning, which I'll get to later, or sometime soon. But yeah, and like finally on what's it called? The death scenes as well, which is some of these death scenes are really creative and brutal. There was one where Jason used a harpoon into a guy's tool and shoots it. Damn, that hurts. There's also a good one where one of the twins, Tina, looks out the window. She turns twice back behind her to see if there was someone behind her, and you expect Jason to come up behind her, but then, boom! Jason comes jumping out the window, grabs her, and throws her out. That was awesome. And she falls from the second story out the window and hits the convertible on the ground and killing her instantly with all the windows shattering, which is cool. And yeah, finally on April 13th, 1984, the final chapter had slashed its way to theaters. The film, like its three predecessors, was a financial success, earning $32.9 million in the U.S. box office against a $2.6 million budget. Hell, it even outperformed Wes Craven's A Nightmare on Elm Street, which was released later that year. However, it had received some poor critical reviews, especially from the legendary film critics Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert. Ebert tore a new one for this movie. I mean, I have never seen a well-established film critic lambast such a small slasher film like this. In fact, here's what he had to say about this movie.
Our next movie is Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Our next movie is Friday the 13th, the final chapter, an immoral... Our next movie is Friday the 13th, the final chapter, an immoral and reprehensible piece of trash that sold more tickets on its opening weekend than any other movie so far in 1984, and that is a very, very depressing commentary. It really makes me sad to think of all those moviegoers spending $4.50, $5, most of them teenage kids, sitting there watching this sad, cynical, depressing movie. Now,
yeah, an immoral and reprehensible piece of trash. Subtle, Ebert. Very subtle. In my opinion, it's a moral and irreprehensible piece of slasher gold. And a sad, cynical, depressing movie? Actually, it's a fun movie. And every adolescent like me seems to enjoy it, Ebert. And, damn, $4 or $5 to, just to see a movie at that time? The last movie I seen just a couple months ago was like up to $10. Sure, geez, the world has changed since then. Sort of like how in the 80s gas was 74 cents a gallon. Phew. And here's something what Ebert has to say as well.
Pictures, you get the idea. Friday the 13th, the final chapter, is 90 minutes of teenagers being strangled, stabbed, impaled, chopped up, and mutilated. That's all this movie is. It's just mindless, bloody violence. And just think of the message this film offers to its teenage audience. The world is a totally evil place, this movie says. It'll kill you. It doesn't matter what your dreams and hopes and ambitions are. It doesn't matter if you have a new boyfriend or a new girlfriend or you've got plans in the future. You can forget those plans because you're going to wind up dead. There is literally nothing else in this movie.
What message? Well, a world message, Ebert? Well, Siskel and... it's just funny how you say there's a message, how doesn't matter whatever life ambitions you have in life, you'll get killed either way. And here's also what Gene Siskel has to say.
I got as upset as you did. I don't know whether the teenagers, the message will be of this film is that the world is hopeless out there, because I think that anybody who sees this picture will see it either the way you did and I did, which is that it's just a mayhem film. You might as well watch car accidents edited together, or they will think it's just a lark and just a fun.
Yep. Nice, Siskel. Even though you're trying to be the optimistic type, but you do agree with Ebert here. You both are cynical, aren't you? The way they call it, this movie, such an immoral and reprehensible piece of trash, and how they think that delivers a world message. What message? I don't see any message in this movie. World message. All I see is a fun little slasher flick which people just get killed off. I don't know why we like these movies, but we seem to have a strange fascination for them, guys. But you can go ahead and describe what else do you think about it.
Where the world is. I don't think they'll do that. But what I am saying is this, that the film is literally about stabbing. In other words, if you like this picture, what you have liked, I believe, is the idea that someone will get a stick put through their body, because that's the essence of this movie. Well, it's not surprising.
Getting stuck, huh? Well, Siskel and Ebert, this is exactly what every slasher movie ever made really are. Like, for example, the Saw franchise, the Hatchet franchise, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Evil Dead, Hostel. The list is endless. In fact, you should check out, that's what every moviegoer has been seeing. Fun little slasher movies, splatter movies, horror movies, because it's the joy. It's a roller coaster ride, Siskel and Ebert. They're not supposed to be taken seriously like other masterpieces. What do you expect this movies like the Friday the 13th movies to be? On par with The Godfather? No. You guys seem to be taking this thing way too seriously, Siskel and Ebert. And, as a matter of fact, does anybody else see a world message in this movie? There may be one about how women tend to have the courage to fight back against killers, like Laurie Strode and in Halloween. But we all know that Siskel and Ebert seems to have a personal vendetta against the horror genre, and tarnishing them, hoping to keep them out of cinemas. But we all know how that worked out. It's still a bit on the flat line, but it's still the horror genre may be on the life support, but it's still going strong, based on the movies we now remember, such as Halloween and Scream and Friday the 13th. Yeah. That basically explains to us that we're in the midst of mainstream moviegoers are in the midst of a cold war against the film critics. Whatever they don't like, we go and see and enjoy it. And do they really think something like this will thwart all the teen moviegoers from seeing this movie? No, we went and seen it, and we enjoyed it. So, joke's on you, Siskel and Ebert. And you have something else, and I bet you have something else to say, Roger.
In this movie, and the sickest thing is, this isn't the final chapter, that's just an advertising gimmick. The ending clearly sets up a sequel. What I want to know is, I wonder if they're going to be heartless and cynical enough to make the sequel, because why not? They've already taken the bucket to the cesspool 4 times for this slush. I think the people who made this movie ought to be ashamed of themselves, and that's what I think.
Yeah, that I can agree with you on, but, geez, you guys really hate the horror movies, and you are true about that, but you did not have to ruin the ending for us, sort of like how Siskel ruined the ending for the first Friday the 13th movie. But, yep, and that's what Siskel and Ebert had to say about it, this movie. But, however, apart from what the critics have to say, the film has been highly praised by both the Friday the 13th fans, and fans of the horror genre for its gore, dark atmosphere, characters, and Ted White's portrayal of Jason. It has been regarded as one of the stronger films of the franchise. Hell, you should check out even some of the people on the IMDb page. They talk about how much this is, the final chapter is their most favorite movie of all time. It's really amazing. And for me, I first saw this film when I saw as a little kid when I was watching the other Friday the 13th movies. They weren't special to me, but now that I've grown up to it, and after some reconsiderations, I think Friday the 13th, the final chapter, is probably my all-time favorite Friday the 13th film. It's really good. In fact, I made a hockey mask out of it. It's one of those typical ones with a drill hole. I drilled some holes into it, painted the other ones over, made little red marks out of cardboard, and it looks cool. I hope it looks cool, guys. And what makes it cool is that they were able to keep the axe marks, yet they were able to change Jason's physical appearance, clothing, age, etc., but they were able to keep his mask and the mark. But overall, I do like this movie. It's my favorite out of the other Friday the 13th films, and there are some problems that this movie has, especially during the final act, like the character Rob Deere, or Dreyer, has one moment, he is perfectly set up to get revenge against Jason, the perfect setup for such a character. Then when he finally confronts him, Jason subdues him and kills him immediately. What a great setup, and yet a huge letdown. There's also like one scene where the main heroine Trish, when she escapes the house, she goes through two doors. One has one dead body lying there, and the other has Crispin Glover's dead body hanging by the door. And you think she would crawl over one body or crawl underneath around Crispin Glover, but instead she breaks a window and goes through it, running to her other house where Tommy is. Okay, yeah. What is the thought of walking over a dead body too much, or something? And there's also another problem where even though they don't know who Jason is, but Trish and Tommy lock their doors, hammering the doors. Sure, that's gonna stop Jason from breaking through the door. Like how moments after that, a minute after they nail the door shut, Jason comes busting in, which is awesome. And then he throws a hammer at them, but it misses by mere inches, which is really cool. The final act is very, in a way, action-packed, which is awesome, and it's really good final act for such a final chapter. And I think that's about the problems that I could find in this movie, to be honest, and that's about it. Those are the only problems I had. Also, another problem is that when Tommy distracts Jason, Trish, who is behind Jason, grabs a machete, and when Jason turns to Trish, she swings at him like she's about to do the final blow on him, but instead, she goes like this, but it seems she goes like this, ripping his mask off, flying out. Okay. Could have hit him right here, but I guess they needed to do the unmasking reveal like in Halloween, where the mask was removed to reveal Michael's face, even though we all know who he was. But whatever, I guess. And yeah. What makes the movie great is that compared to the other Friday the 13th films on the IMDb page, is that it has earned... Come on, thing. like, it has earned a 5.9 out of 10 on the IMDb page, which I believe is too low. I think it should deserve a lot more. And it's been almost close to, well, it's March 17th now, and in April 13th, next month, it'll be the 31st anniversary of this movie, so I want to get your anniversary movies up, celebrations with this movie coming up next month. And yeah, this movie's great, and overall I like the movie. I love this movie, and the characters are great. The dark atmosphere is really good. It's the darkest, I think, out of all the movies, and the characters are very likable, which is sad when you see them get killed off, and which is a first for such a slasher movie, and other things is that Corey Feldman was good in it, and especially when this is his first big movie, and later movies that's to come. I even heard at one point just recently that he wants to do a Friday the 13th sequel, Tommy vs. Jason, and the sequel is, the title says it all. He wants to do a sequel where he comes back as Tommy Jarvis and fight against Jason. I'm down for it. It would be cool to see Tommy back. We'll just see what happens. And yeah. But yep, this movie was really great, and really perfect. The perfect Friday the 13th film, and that's really much I can say. Can't think of anything else. But if you haven't seen the Friday the 13th movie and plan on to, you should watch this one, the final chapter. It's the perfect one, and you won't be disappointed by it. Won't be disappointed by it, and it is really good. Plus it's the if there wasn't any sequels made after this, this probably would have been the perfect final chapter for such a horror franchise. The way they kill Jason off is great. He goes off in a blaze, and but of course the movie made big money, and this persuaded Paramount to do yet another sequel, and yeah, hopefully we'll be getting to that sequel next time. And so, since overall on this movie, I give this movie 7.5 stars, because it's a really great Friday the 13th movie, very good and definitely worth watching, and it's like the shining example of a perfect Friday the 13th movie, and it's definitely worth watching solely to watch Crispin Glover's crazy dance to Love Is a Lie. In fact, what I heard is that when they were filming that scene, originally they had the song, the AC/DC song Back in Black in it, but they changed it to Lion's Love Is a Lie. I think this the best choice they did. Love Is a Lie. It's a great song, and yeah, so that's about it. 8 stars for this movie, and soon I'll be doing possibly doing other Friday the 13th films, or many others, but they'll come soon, I promise. And hopefully, till next time, guys, this has been Friday the 13th, the final chapter, and hope you enjoyed the video, and if you like this video, you can leave a comment or hit that like button. So hopefully Till next time, peace.